My name is Yuval Bachar. I'm the president of the Open19 Foundation, and on my spare time working for LinkedIn as well. I'm so happy to reach this point right now that we actually can do a full-blown summit, and I'm so happy to have so many people over here. First of all, I want to send a big thank you for a large group of people, large group of companies which were believing in the technology and driving the technology into fruition and into a point where we actually believe that we are ready. We're ready for prime time. I also wanted to send a special thank you for Packet and LinkedIn for sponsoring yesterday's event and this morning's breakfast, and to all the suppliers and vendors which are with us over here and showing their technology. I want to send a special thank you for the people who worked on this project. Software people, hardware people, mechanical people, server designers, switch designers, a variety of people. I would estimate about 200 plus people are working on this project and brought it to where it is right now. You can see it in the back over there, up and running. We didn't light it up because we assumed people would touch it, but from that perspective, it is a live rack out of our labs. Let's talk about the foundation a little bit. So the foundation right now is in a stable state. It's a community-based organization to enable hardware and software open source environment. It's an environment which is, when we emphasize really strongly the community aspect of it, because it's important for us that we all work together as a community, and it's a platform to develop and innovate on it, and it's not a platform which is, this is it, and you have to use it that way. We want everybody to be able to work as a community in the adoption, in the development, in anything that works for your customers needs to be adopted in the technology. The technology is not locked. The standard is locked, but the technology is not locked. You can develop on that technology. We currently have 6 founding members and 25 corporates, and we have about 30 perspectives. Perspectives are companies which are in different stages of actually joining the foundation. So, so it means that we're in relatively good shape. We're about 18 months from the launch, which in historical information, we are in really, really good shape, having so many companies on board. The platform is a shared platform, but Open19 Foundation is not just about the Open19 platform. Open19 Foundation will have an extension of other things, software packages, management packages, everything else that will be contributed to the foundation once the platform is in place, and you can build on top of it, or you can build completely separate things. It does not have to be the elements which are associated with the Open19 rack and platform. We are establishing a standard right now in the industry, a de facto standard for data centers and edge. Specifically on the edge, we're making a huge effort to make sure that the Open19 system has been built and contribute to the foundation to a point where actually the foundation will drive the de facto standard for edge and data centers of the future. And we are having a lot of way going through this and very successful with it. So some people ask me, okay, why should I be a member? Like, well, what does it give me if I become a member, either as an individual or as a company? So as an individual, you basically become a member to be part of the community, to be part of the interaction, part of the information which is flowing through, part of the exchange of information. But what's the value of being a company member? So the first thing, which is the value of having a company member, is you have early access to all the developments that are in flight. Early access means that the companies which are planning on contributing technology can give you access to the information through the foundation, under the governance of the foundation, so there's no IP exposure for you, and will give you access to develop on that technology or utilize the technology. You're going to be in touch with people which are like you. People are building data centers. People are building equipment for data centers. People are actually in the position that you are, trying to solve problems that you either solved already and you can help them, or you can actually get their help because they solved the problem already for you. It will give you an ability to actually go deeper than just the specs. And I'll talk about the contribution process in a minute. But we have 2 levels of contributions. One is a spec level contribution where everybody can take it and adopt the spec for your technology. The other one is a full deep dive reproducible packages, which means you can take it and actually produce it. If you want to create a cage, you can take the whole thing and build a cage. If you want to build a switch, if you want to build a power shelf. The idea over here is that you need to be a member and a committed member to the organization to be able to take that package. The spec is open for everybody. But the package itself, to maintain consistency, maintain the same level of stability, will go through the foundation. The other reason that the packages go through the foundation is IP protection. We want to protect your IP, not the foundation IP. The foundation is coming and developed an environment where your IP is protected. So if you're developing a server for Open19 form factor, your server IP is not required to be put in there and be exposed because you have your own advantage over there. There's no reason for you to do that. All we are trying to do with the foundation is develop a standard that will enable you to innovate on that standard. It's not telling you how to do things. It's just creating a framework for you. You'll be able to participate in the Open19 Marketplace, which I'm going to talk about in a minute, which is a place where everybody can actually sell the product. Not directly through the foundation, but at least on the foundation, you'll be able to see a collection of all the components which are in the pipeline of development. And you'll be able to do co-development or co-purchasing power. We are still working on what does it mean to do a co-purchasing power. Should we take a group of companies and build one set of purchasing power to make us look big? Or are we going to facilitate different kinds of collaborations around how to purchase equipment at the price of large volume environments into small volume environments? It is very important for us that we are be successful in the small environments just as much as the big environments, because we don't want to be a product or a solution which goes only to the high-end data centers. It makes no sense for this, okay? This is something I want to announce today. So the Open19 Foundation is announcing the opening of the Open19 Marketplace. You can go to the website, open19.org/marketplace. This is a snapshot of what it is right now. There's a lot of companies under that as well. So if you go to the site, you'll be able to see that. Each one of the components over here is clickable, and you can go and get much more details on it. And you can actually have direct links and direct connections into the suppliers. If the suppliers provided either a website or a phone number or anything else around it to enable you to be able to buy the whole thing. We will also add in that marketplace the ability to buy the package. So some of the suppliers over here will enable you to buy a whole package, like cages and shelves and everything together. Some of them will sell you just a component. You can buy just a power shelf from Delta or Schneider. But if you want to go to a CDW, you'll be able to buy the full package, okay? So we're announcing that today. This is already live, I hope. And you can go there and check it out. It has been launched this morning. Talk a little bit about the contribution of projects and how the contribution works. So we changed the way contribution worked compared to other open source technologies. And what we said, okay, if a company is contributing a project to the foundation, that company owns the project. What does it mean the company owns the project? It means the company has the ability to review any extensions to the project. We believe that if you develop the project and you contributed to the foundation, you are the best group of people to actually review extensions to that, because you understand it very, very well and understand if something is being broken in the process of doing the extension or not. What will happen is that once the project X over here has been contributed by company A, whoever it is, and somebody comes and says, I'll take an example on Open19, right? Somebody comes and says, you know what, the cable that you created over there is using a single switch. I want a dual top-of-rack switch. What do I do? The simple answer for that is create an extension. Create a cable which actually has 2 drops into 2 switches. Maintain the compatibility to the server with the server side. But on the switch side, create a double connector configuration that's completely legitimate and good. And you can own it, basically. So you can have the ownership of that. If that extension will come into play, what will happen is now you own that branch. If somebody wants to do an extension on you, like the XY, XYZ, they need to go back to you. So you say, okay, how do we approve that this is okay? The way to approve it is very straightforward. The company wants to do an extension to a project, comes back to the owning company and say, this is the extension I want to do. They give a proposal, a written proposal on it. The company who owns the original project says, yeah, that's fine. Let's make it an extension. That's simple. So you ask, OK, what happens if the company who did the original contribution doesn't want to approve it? Then you have a path to go to the board. And the board of the organization will review your proposal. And there could be three outcomes to it. One is, this is an extension to the original project. And the board will enforce on the original company to make it as an extension. The board can come back and say, you know what, this is not really an extension. This is a different project. Let's start a new project. And now you own that project. Okay? And the third option is say, you know what, this technology is not really having any relationship to what we're doing over here. It can be contributed, but it needs to go through a separate process, not necessarily in association with this project. Okay? So if you look at the way that the approval process works, the approval process is relatively straightforward. It doesn't go to committees or anything else. You have a proposal, you submit it to the owning company. The company says, yes, you're an extension. You post all the files into the repository, it's in. If you're 2 layers down, you get 2 approvals, one from the branch owner, the other one from the project owner, and you're fine. We were trying to simplify it. Now, this is a community. If this doesn't work, if it doesn't actually doing an efficient way of you enabling you to contribute or consume technology, come back to us. Come back to the organization, send a letter to the board, say, hey, I think this is not really working for us. Should we actually make those adjustments? We will make them. We're a community, we're listening, we're not top-down. We are working together to make this successful. Okay? Let's talk a little bit about the Open19 project, and I'm not going to deep dive into the technology itself. I'm going to focus mostly on the values that the Open19 will give you. Just a quick snapshot, and I want to thank Molex for creating this rendering. Thank you. Just a quick snapshot of the technology of how the rack looks like. You have a rack which has a definition of the form factor of the servers. It does not define the servers. It just defines the form factor. What you see in the picture over here is double wide, double high, and a brick, which is a half-width solution, the most common server we see. The 2 common elements in every area that we call a leaf zone. One is a power shelf. We're doing the power distribution for the whole rack. And the other one is a switch, which is actually doing the aggregation of the traffic from all the servers. We predefined 100 gig per server on a half brick, and it grows linearly. The bigger you are, the more you get, power and data. Okay? The cages themselves are pure sheet metal. There's nothing in there. It's not active. You can see them both on the Flex and the Open19 side. You can see the cages is just pure sheet metal. It has nothing in it. It's cost-effective as a result of that. If you go to the back side, you can see the cabling system. And I think if you go to that rack over there, you'll be able to touch the cabling system and actually plug it in. That cable system is actually built for 400 watts for every half-width brick. And growing linearly, like I said, bigger is more, like a full width is 800. And 100 gig day 1 coming to every server. We understand that nobody actually is connecting 100 gig to a server today. Most people are at 10, 25, potentially going to 50. But 100 is there. Once the switch is actually going to a higher level from the 3.2 terabit it is right now, you'll be able to do 200 gig to the server without making any change in it. So you're bulletproofed for at least 2 generations of your servers in there. And we have other innovation that we're going to talk about later during the day about how we actually can take it to another level at all when we don't run copper connectivity. Okay? These are the cages. We have right now 2 versions, 12RU and 8RU. And the reason for that is that with 12 and 8, you can actually fill any size rack. If it's 40 or 36 or 45 or whatever it is, any combo of 12 and 8 will actually fill up the rack for you. And that's our goal, was to fill up the rack as much as we can. Okay? It's 2RU modularity, so you cannot have more than 2RU element in it at this point. If your element is bigger than 2RU, you have to put it outside. But since this is a 19-inch standard environment, put a box outside. We left ports available on the switch to connect to those external components if you need to do them. This is the cabling system. We have data cables and power cables. Sorry, seems like it's reversed. The data cables are actually on the right side, and the power cables are on the left side. These are actually delivering 400 watts per server, half, and the other one is delivering the 100 gig. These are the brick form factors. A brick is a half-width 1RU, and we kept 1RU 1.75. A double wide is a standard 1RU server. A double high half-width is a weird-looking server, which is 2U half-width. It's targeted mostly for servers which actually have standing modules in it and requires the height, but does not want to consume the whole 2U. And we have a standard 2U element as well. Important thing over here, all of those servers are self-sustained, which means if you go and buy a server from Inspur, Supermicro, Flex, Celestica, or anybody else, these servers are self-sustained, which means they're UL certified, they are EMI certified. All you need to do is plug them into the rack. That's it. You do not need to do any high-level, rack-level qualification. The other thing is that they're scalable linearly with size. This is the switch. This is the only special element except the power shelf, which is in the system. The reason we had to make it special is those special connectors that you see on the front. Each one of those connectors is carrying up to 1 terabit of traffic. It's copper-based solution, and what you see behind it is a standard switch, a Tomahawk-based. Right now, this is running ICOS, but it's actually going to run in the future other network operating systems as well. It has right now, because of the limited bandwidth in the Tomahawk chip, only 50 gig allocated to the servers, not full 100. But we also have a small embedded 1 gig out-of-band switch in there, which is completely independent and actually can serve your out-of-band requirements in the rack itself, so you don't have to have an additional out-of-band switch if you're using an out-of-band switch in your environment. Okay? It has a really strong CPU, Broadwell DE, with 16 gig of memory, so your operating system, network operating system, can be extremely efficient with how you do reconvergence, and all the timing on that is much, much faster than a typical Atom-based solution that you get from standard switches. Okay? It's a white box design from LinkedIn, and it will be open. Okay? This is the power shelf. Right now, we have a 1RU solution. We have in the standard the 2RU version as well, but we have not productized it yet. It's a 19.2 kilowatts full power. If you operate in a 5+1, it will give you 16 to 17 kilowatts. If you operate in 3+3, it will give you 9.6 kilowatts. Okay? The modules are generic. The input for it is completely universal. So any AC/DC input that you have will fit into this. It has 2 inputs, A and B inputs, that you can actually allocate. And the inputs are actually universal. The output is always 12 volt. We have inside 2 CPU subsystems running Linux. And you can either develop software on top of that because it's running the OpenBMC package, or you can take the software package that came with it, and it will be good enough. Another beautiful thing that they did over here, we isolated every server with an eFuse. An eFuse is an element which both protects the server from shorts, etc., as well as monitor the server. So you have the server being monitored constantly by the BMC cards which are sitting in there, and you can pull this information into your management system in the data center to understand your instantaneous consumption of power from every one of the servers or from the rack level. Okay? Everything over here is fully redundant. This is the single point of failure in the system. So it has been built triple redundant in every place that you have in here because you cannot have that power shelf go down. The power shelf, by the way, is self-sustained even if both BMC modules are crashing. So let's assume that you actually made the mistake and updated both of the BMC modules at the same time, and you have a bug, and they both crashed. The power shelf will continue to work. There will be no impact on your servers. The eFuses will not change mode or state. Even if you reboot the BMC modules 100 times, it doesn't really matter. It will always keep state. Okay? To summarize the benefits, any 19-inch. So basically, any place that you have a 19-inch, you can take the technology and put it in place. It's a fully redundant infra AB2AN solution for 9.6 configuration, and we put 2 of those 9.6 in a rack, so you can do 19.2 kilowatts per rack. It's completely disaggregated, and what it means by disaggregated means every element is independent. The server in slot 1 is completely unaware of the server in slot 2. There's no rack level management, there's no rack level control. Everything is completely isolated. So that's why we can actually take a server from Inspur and put it next to a server from Supermicro in the same slot, basically, and they coexist as 2 separate nodes. They have no relationship between them. That helps us tremendously as data center operators to be able to manage our supply chain, to be able to manage our sourcing of servers, and how to do that. Very short integration time, which I'll show in a minute, what we did with that. We can leveraging existing servers. You can see most of the servers which we have right now, except the new ones that have been developed, have been motherboards dropped into the form factor of Open19. an adapter is put in the back to connect it to the blind-made connectivity, and that's it. So existing servers, which takes a cycle of 18 months to develop usually, are being used and it can accelerate the development. If you are using an existing server and you want to put it in this form factor, you can go to your supplier and say, can you drop this into an Open19 case? And we did this 4 or 5 times already. It was a 5 to 8 weeks effort to actually bring it in, okay? And cost effectiveness, and I'll talk about the cost effectiveness. It's not obvious that it's more cost effective, but I'll show in a minute why it's more cost effective. We were able to save over 40% of our CapEx in our production deployment by deploying Open19. And this is real numbers. It's not estimated numbers. It's numbers quoted on servers and all the components in the system. Let's talk about LinkedIn a little bit. So LinkedIn is about 575 million users right now, and we're growing really, really rapidly. About 2 million posts per day and about 40% year-over-year growth of users, and significantly more growth in our data center. We have infrastructure which is mostly US-centered, but we have a lot of POPs spread out around the world, which is part of the reason that we build the technology, because we have very diverse environment. Our environment goes to all kinds of places with all kinds of power, cooling, and data center infrastructure. We had to build something which goes everywhere. And that's the reason why people find it extremely attractive to put it in the edge, because the edge is completely unpredictable. It can be a container, it can be in a local office, it can be on top of an antenna tower, it can be anywhere. If you look at what we innovate into, we innovate into our apps writer in an area saying everything that you have on the network is unlimited. So what we do when we develop this, we say our network is always under-provisioned, so you write the best app you can, and then we will give you the network bandwidth that we need. And that's why we pre-allocated 50 to 100 gig to the server, because we do not want the apps people in our environment to come and say, hey, I don't have enough bandwidth, I can't implement this feature. That's not there. Compute on demand on our side, we're basically creating like a private cloud, a little bit more sophisticated than the standard private cloud, but it's a bare metal private cloud. We are running on bare metal private cloud at LinkedIn when we're doing compute on demand. The data center is programmable from a perspective of everything that we do in the data center, from allocation of resources, from data and network management, from a backbone connectivity management. It's all fully programmable. We don't need, in most cases, unless there's really a physical fault, somebody to touch the platforms. And lastly, we scale cost effectively. And that's a bit of a challenge when you're coming from a relatively small environment and you're growing so fast. To make it cost effective, it makes it a little more difficult. When you build a 250,000 service data center, you can optimize almost everything that you can. When you're building 10,000, another 10,000, another 10,000, another 10,000, it's a little more complicated. But we were able to achieve with Open19 the ability to do that in a very clean way that you actually grow linearly in a very cost-effective way. It can leverage the cost efficiency just like you have 250,000 servers when you have only 5,000 or 10,000. Okay? Let's talk about the status of the project. I have only one update to say on that. The project is in production. So every element in this project is in production, from the cages, power shelves, cables, and a slew of servers. They're all in production. So from our perspective, that's the only update we need to give. Nothing else. We are in production. This is an example of one of our data centers in Oregon, pre-servers. This is all the infra is installed in it. This is one pod of 16 racks that we use. The whole installation of that was a really awesome experience for us. This is now filled up with servers, not fully, but filling up with servers. What I'll show over here in the video right now, and I'll talk about this, is how long it takes us to run this. What's happening with the video? Oops. Can you run the video manually? Can you run the video manually? If not, that's fine. No, it's OK. Don't go forward. OK, so I'll talk about what you were supposed to see in the video. The video is basically a video showing the installation of the first rack of Oh, there you go. The installation of the first rack of Open19 by 2 techs for the first time seeing Open19. They have not been trained. They did not get any specs, did not get any cookbooks or anything like that. We gave them the hardware and said install it. What you can see over here that they're installing 2 people, crew of 2, installing the system, and we're measuring the time on how long it takes them to actually build this. The outcome of that, you will see in a minute, is that we're able to build the whole rack in about 75 to 90 minutes on the first batch, which means we didn't optimize anything. And you will see in a minute when they go to the back that they spend quite a bit of time on unwrapping the cables, for example, which we changed altogether in how we actually package the cables. But we were able to achieve a delivery of 6,000 nodes, which is comparable for 48,000 cores, within 3 days on 16 rack floor space. This is, for us, LinkedIn, an amazing number, because this used to take us about a month to do before, which is incredible. And this one actually enables you to be in a position that you don't necessarily have to actually do rack and roll, because this is a crew of 2 people. That 90 minutes that we had has been improved dramatically, and we believe that right now with a crew of 2, you can do this in less than 60 minutes. We don't operate in crews of 2. We usually operate in crews of 4 or 6 or 8, which means we can bring up a pod in hours, which is thousands of servers. Okay? From our perspective, this is a game changer with the way we operate data centers, the way we actually build them, the way, how much ahead of time we actually need to prepare for it. Do we need to prepare for this a quarter ahead of time or a month ahead of time before we need to give it away? No. Days. We just purchase the equipment. We get a demand for 1,000 servers. Bam, in minutes, the 1,000 servers are. What we do today, we pre-build what's called infra, which is everything except the servers. Because if you look at the cost of a data center, everything which is dwarfed compared to the cost of the servers. The servers are actually a 50-to-1 ratio to the rest of the stuff. So building the infra is a relatively low investment, and we have slots waiting. And inserting the servers themselves, you can experience it over there. Bringing online a server is pushing it in, locking it into place. We have an automated system that detects it, puts it in the system, provision it, and handing it off to production. This is, I think, the most optimal way we can actually create this. Okay? If you look at the actual numbers, so we're running 9 times faster on deployment, which is enormous for us from a resource perspective, which from a timing perspective, from a planning perspective. We saved 40% on CapEx. That is a very, very large number. The bigger you get, 40% becoming a bigger and bigger number. It can be millions of dollars, of tens of millions of dollars in some cases. We actually 4x the space density. So if you're restricted on floor space, this solution gives you 4x the density from what you actually had. And I think one of the things that we're most proud on, and that's with our Yellow Sub platform that we're going to talk about probably next year, we are cutting our power footprint and our carbon footprint by 50% by using this, which is, again, an incredible thing for us, because for us to optimize our data centers into being more green is one of the key goals that we have when we build data centers. So why should you adopt Open19? If you are here to actually consider adopting Open19, or your customers are asking you to do it, cost savings. That's probably your primary first level. I can cut significantly my investment on cost. Cost means CapEx as well as the OpEx afterwards. You don't have to invest a lot of energy and money in OpEx. And in the future, when we develop robotic hands to remove and insert servers, you won't need to have people in the data center at all. Time to install. We pay a significant amount of money if we do rack and roll per server. And each and every one of you who is doing rack and roll over here knows exactly how much you pay per server to do rack and roll, and how complex it is to do rack and roll, to load it, to ship it, to bring it. We don't need to do that anymore. We can build hundreds of thousands of servers footprint in days if we have enough people on the floor. Okay? And we spread it across data centers. Space savings. You reach, and we reach sometimes, to a point where our spot or our space we're in just running out of space. There's no floor space. We might have the power or the cooling, but there's no floor space left for us. No floor space. This one is improving it dramatically 4x. Power savings, like I said, cutting our power by 50% gives us the ability to utilize the same space we have right now for our future growth. We don't need to get new space. We don't need to pay for new lease of new space, new areas of power, because we can increase our footprint on the same space we're in. Any location, And we really mean any location. The power, the system, the rack, as long as you have a 19-inch rack, you're good. You can install this technology. If it's on a drilling rig in the South Sea, or if it's on a container in the edge, or it's in a 500,000 server environment in a large data center. Any place will fit. We are on a path to create this in a fully automated way, which means that the data center will not be required to have trained people in it to run it. Our goal is that the UPS guy who delivers the server to your edge platform can actually plug it in and make it run. That's our goal, that you don't have to send a tech to that. We have a hole in the wall, you plug in the server, it will go into the Open19 platform, that's it, you're done. Okay? And we optimize it for the edge specifically to make it successful on the edge level. And I don't know if I mentioned that, we are in production. So you can take that as well. The ecosystem right now, dual source on the 12RU and 8RU cages. You can buy them currently from Celestica and from Flex. If you want to build them yourself, you'll be able to do it once the platform is out. Power and data cables are actually coming from sole source right now, but again, they are open source from a spec perspective. If you want to produce them yourself, you can do that. Okay? The power shelf is dual source and ready for production. One of our platforms is ready to production completely. The other one is in the really final stages, will be in production by the end of the year. We have 5 sources of servers right now, and 5 more actually in the pipeline. And I think Tao is going to talk about some of it in the following discussion. We will have right now servers in production. The one you see over there are all in production. So you can actually buy them from those suppliers. So in summary, Open19 is about defining a common form factor. It's not about telling you what server to use. Use whatever server you want. Use whatever partner you want. Build it whatever way you want. We're just defining an optimal innovation cycle. It is a community work. And as a community work, what we actually believe is that if people continue to innovate on the platform, and people start to actually contribute technology beyond the Open19 technology, it doesn't have to be Open19 technology. If people want to make modification on what you're doing, software packages, everything is part of the community. If the community support each other, then we're good. And we'll be able to bring more members into the community, have more supply chain demand in it, reduce the prices by doing that. It's established now, so you don't have to actually think, oh, maybe you should wait until this is, it is established now, it's running. The data center operators and integrators are in here, system suppliers, component suppliers, everybody's on board already, and everybody's actually delivering the components. You can order them and buy them and install them. If you want to install a test system or test environment, just go for it. Put an order, either Flex or Celestica, or in the future we'll be able to do it through CDW as well, and you'll be able to test it in your labs. If you want to do specific servers, you can do specific servers. Okay? And one last thing, I don't know if I mentioned it, Open19 is in production. So we are ready for production. Okay? And one more thing, just to go after greatness of Steve Jobs. LinkedIn is happy to announce that today, the Open19 platform is being contributed to the Open19 Foundation. It's open source. Anybody can take it, change it, modify it, give it away, build it, and do whatever you want. It took us a long time to get to this point. Thank you. It took us a long time to get to this point, but we're there. We are contributing a production quality Open19 technology into the foundation. You can come into the foundation, request to consume the technology on the spec level or on the full package level if you remember. You'll be able to take it and reproduce it again in your environment. You can buy it directly. You don't have to be a member, by the way, to buy it. You can buy it off the shelf. It's an off-the-shelf technology. If you want to modify it and play with it, you need to actually get the contribution. This contribution is going to stay here. This contribution is going to be continuing to evolve because we are continuing to work on this project. We're not just dropping it and running away. Okay? With that, I want to thank you for the attention, and I want to thank you for actually joining us over here. We have a great day in front of us. A lot of really, really smart people over here are going to talk about amazing technologies and amazing industry trends, and I hope it's going to be very valuable for you. check out the booth that we have over here and go touch the servers and the cables over there on the back. They are completely for touching. They're not there to show. They're for you to experience. What does it mean to plug in a server? That's what it means. Put it out, put it in. That's it. OK? Thank you very much, guys.